The USFL College Draft is concluded, but the news doesn't stop as we've got big announcements on ticket pricing, and a big-time quarterback in the alt football scene is joining the USFL this spring. This is episode 48 of the USFL podcast, and it starts right now.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome, everyone, into the latest edition of the USFL podcast. I am Zach Kyleman hosting this week in the chair, alongside, of course, my good buddy, my partner in crime, the other honcho himself in this show. It is the ref on the opposite side of the screen as we are in post-draft mode, but that doesn't mean we don't have much to talk about. Things in the previous 2 days since we had that awesome live draft coverage have the last 24 hours have kind of just whirled up really quick for news coverage in terms of just big announcements for the league and for one particular player we'll get to. But in the meantime, I can't start without this. I have to ask, how you doing, my friend? Have you recouped from the coverage? I'll be honest with you. I think in the last few days, because of just the new schedule, no, full disclosure again, I work nights. I think I have gotten a grand total of 10 hours of sleep over the last 2 days. And it's just how it is, man. I roll with the punches.
You know, you've been hanging around me a little bit too much, I think. Sleep is good for you. You can tell. Look at these bags under my eyes. I mean, I could travel with these bags.
Are mine catching up? Can you?
They are actually. Oh boy, yeah. Put those glasses back on. We need to get some sleep.
This is the mantra of a night shift worker.
Oh my God!
This week I have had 3 of the 4 nights. I have had some sort of Rockstar or Monster Energy. I have been just getting through the week on getting boosts at my shift. That's all it's been.
I can't get with that energy drink stuff. My wife, though, on the other hand, she scares me with the amount of energy drinks she can drink in a day. I keep myself to 1 cup of coffee in this beautiful mug right here. I didn't even drink coffee for years, but now I'm a 1 cup of coffee kind of guy. But yeah, I mean, hey, sooner or later, one of these days we'll get rest. But we're going to still be dropping the news. Sleep is for suckers, Zach. And it sucks to be a sucker. I'll tell you that much.
Don't tell my folks. They ask if I'm all right. I am all right, Dad. I swear.
You know, people ask me if I'm all right all the time, but I don't think it's because of the sleep.
Oh, good Lord.
Oh, man. It's one of those weeks.
It has been one of those weeks, but look, I mean, it's been a pretty good week for the league. We're approaching the 50-day mark towards the season's beginning, which is, again, we keep creeping in towards that. Football, of course, has returned in other various forms, but boy, oh boy, I cannot wait to see this season start up and get going on April 15th. Speaking of that, we'll get into some, our usual plugs and details. And considering April 15th is going to be a big bash that you might want to tune in for or visit us in person, keeping that in mind. Remember, we are going to be doing Spring Stock again. It is 2023's version of the Big Bash that started it all for us in terms of live coverage. If you saw, of course, leading into the show, the teaser for it already, we are going to be down at Casey's Sports Bar, which is formerly Todd English Pub, down there in Birmingham, Alabama, in Uptown, just across the street from the south end zone of Protective Stadium, beginning coverage of our stream of Spring Stock at 12 p.m. Central Time there. You don't want to miss it. Come on in, get some good grub, get some drinks, chill with us. We're going to be covering it with some awesome guests that are yet to be announced, but they are going to be great guests that you'll be thrilled to see in person. We are working on getting set in stone, and we're going to be doing a watch party at the end to check out the Showboats hosting the Philadelphia Stars. And then immediately after, you can follow us across the street because we're going to be watching the rematch of last year's opener between the New Jersey Generals and the Birmingham Stallions at Protective Stadium, which will be electric like last year. If it is anything like it was last year's, I imagine it's going to be the same exact vibe. It is a great facility to play at. I love Protective after last year. Much new appreciation for it. So seriously, check it out. The next day, again, we're going to be up in Memphis, Tennessee. Yes, it will not be for the Showboats game, but you'll want to come and check us out because we're going to be doing a tailgate for the Grudge game. We are officially labeling it that, as is going to be, of course, Stefan's losing Gamblers. We'll be taking on my winning Michigan Panthers that are headed up by Mike Nolan, the man that is going to be in the drip in the suit. I hope he is pleased during week 1, as we will be facing off, of course, at Simmons Liberty Stadium out there in Memphis, Tennessee. Check it out. Come and visit with us. Let's have a bash. Let's make this a big build-up for the Grudge game. The first official Grudge game, but the second one all time that we will be at, and we'll be dressed to the nines in our respective gear and be hyping the hell out of it on social for ripping into each other. It has already started. It is going to get much worse as the season goes on.
That is a fact, but I have a feeling history will repeat itself. Again, hopefully only for the first week. Hopefully, because if we have the subsequent history repeating, I'm going to hope we lost. Maybe that's how I could spin it.
Just
if I lose,
weeks of you losing one score
but we
games.
Can't. That's the thing, Zach. I keep forgetting. We can't lose. 12-0.
12-0. 12-0. I'm being nice. 11-1. Something like that. I don't know. What do I know? Anyway, actually, it wouldn't be 11-1, it'd be 10-1. Anyway, I'll keep that in mind. Check out Spring Stock, guys. We'll be pumping it up throughout the rest of the season. It's our big bash, and we're going to keep on, of course, telling you all things about it and get the guests closer to time. Quick for plugs, social. Hey, if you aren't following us on social yet, what the hell are you doing? At USFL Podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We have our first TikTok out there. That is confirmed. That is my video, of course, but we will be posting a few more as we go, as ideas pop up into our head and I get a little bit better at posting the clips on there. We'll be getting that more up and running, but hey, keep on following it. Trust me, we'll get more vids. Appreciate the love so far and seeing the new followers just from the preview of the draft coverage. Also, by the way, thank you for the said draft coverage. We had a huge spike in subscriptions from you guys that it's made it so much closer to us giving away that custom USFL jersey. Once we hit 5,000 subs, we are less than 2,000 away now from getting that mark. That is not too far off in my eyes. We are going to hit that and give a fully customized USFL jersey from the USFL shop of your choice. You just have to subscribe to this channel to be available to be in that drawing when it happens. So, hey, jump on in. If you're new to the channel, if you're discovering it through the draft, welcome aboard. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell. It builds morale, as we like to say, because it feels good for us, and you will feel good for it too, for not missing an episode or a clip or an interview, which we got a great interview I'm going to tease at the end of the show to let you guys know what's coming up as well. And finally, 10% off your order at BreakingT.com, one of the official distributors of USFL gear. Use code USFL Newsroom at checkout to save 10% on your entire order. I think that covers everything. I got a lot of hype with Spring Stock.
Well, I mean, it's the biggest bash of the year. I mean, the biggest party of the springtime. I mean, spring football fans all gathering in one spot. And again, I mean, last year we just put it together as a one-day event. Summer Stock, we went 2 days. Now we got 2 full flipping days over in Spring Stock. And we got other things coming up throughout the year. So I'm getting excited there. I'm looking forward to it. And I can't wait to see everybody down in Birmingham. And then especially once we go ahead and meet in Memphis and go watch the Gamblers win before we get some blues and barbecue.
See, this is what we're dealing with right here. This is going to be just back and forth for like the next month and a half. This is what we'll be at. Get used to it, people. Get used to it. The Panthers are going to win, by the way.
Oh, anyhow,
so let's dive into this thing. First things first, we'll rehash the 2023 USFL Collegiate Draft. It is in the books. Again, thank you for tuning in to our live stream coverage. If you are curious to see how that all went down and how the picks went out, say you want to watch our live reactions in time, that video is available on our channel at all given times, and you can tune on in for that. But in the meantime, just to recap, it was a 10-round draft. We had 80 total picks. It was for collegiate players' rights, which any draft is for rights. But this one in particular, keep in mind, a lot of these players are still going to be pursuing NFL opportunities. So it is going to be for rights primarily first, and you hope to then possibly have some sign on later on because you have rights for those players if they are interested in the USFL. Again, very few will play this season, if any at all. Jim Pop did mention that there is a possibility that maybe some post-pro days they get a talking to about their prospects and maybe they consider things. But again, all these teams are expecting a lot of these guys probably will not this year likely join up, is the deal. So keep that in mind. Big asterisk you have to keep in mind. But it's still, it's about building the potential future of the league. That's the big importance with what we were trying to reiterate with this as well. Because there are details about these draft rights. A lot of people had questions about this. What do the draft rights entail? How long do these things last? And I'll give you a kind of a synopsis from a league source that we were given on post-draft on Tuesday. A team's rights to collegiate draft players will stay in effect until that player decides to report to the team to negotiate a contract. If the drafting team doesn't make an offer, then the drafting team must relinquish the rights to the player via notifying the USFL's league office. So the team that gets the rights has to basically say, hey, we are done with this player's rights when they are finished off with them. So they have to go to the office and say that. Thus, they become available more freely. Depending on the NFL fortunes of some players, we may see some this season, next season, or never. Again, the league understands this. Jim Pop has said it frequently, and it's been brought up, but it's about what is the potential to bring in guys.
Sure.
That is what you have to remember. Remember, the CFL does a very similar thing. The USFL is doing pretty much a very similar deal in this regard. You just hope that some of your guys come in at some point in the near future. And there's a few of them I think do, just based on the school size and some of the prospect that I would love to see in. Again, Gunnar Oaks, I said it on the stream. I think he's a guy that could jump in for the Panthers right out of the gate. Right.
Yeah, I think we'll see a couple. I think, at minimum one, right? One will probably move over. I think there was even one, I can't remember exactly who, I apologize, but one of the Maulers picks, I believe, went on social media and said, thanks for the opportunity. So, again, does that mean he's going to be there? I don't know, but it seems like he's at least open to it, right?
Right.
But
that's what you hope.
Right. But now looking towards year 2, year 3, now I think things start becoming more likely that some of these come through. And we talked about this in the stream, and I think we talked about it in the last episode. This is really about hedging some bets, taking some risk, maybe getting lucky, knowing that, okay, some of these guys, maybe they will get a shot in the NFL, but they'll look at it and say, look, I'm still young. Let me go play in the USFL for a season because I can always go back into the NFL and get the same spot that they were offering at, maybe as a practice squad spot. So you're not going to make as much money, but you have the years at least to make the name for yourself and do whatever it is that you need to do. Now, the other case, and this I've used as an example as well, is Paxton Lynch, right?
Yeah.
If the USFL was around 8 years ago when he was drafted by the NFL, when he would have inevitably came to the USFL, whichever team would have drafted him would have had the option to have him there. So it wouldn't be kind of fighting for the rights of that guy. It's kind of already decided. Again, I'm surprised we didn't see Stetson Bennett just based on that alone, but it is what it is. Tanner Morgan, nice pick for the Panthers there. If that ever comes to fruition, sign it up, right?
Right. Well, it was funny. So I don't know if it was a glitch or not, just based on the draft, but some people went on Fox and said, "Oh crud, there are some people that are signing right now." And then that was luckily Ace over at USFL Network did get that clarification that was not the case. Because I was like, oh my God, if Tanner Morgan signed on right away, I'm thrilled because that's 3 QBs that are going to be having a hectic battle in the offseason for that position. But yeah, again, a lot of these guys are probably, like Tanner Morgan, like for example, Malik Cunningham, another one that had a lot of press. Adrian Martinez, I think that made a lot of waves in the chat that we had.
Yeah.
Where they're like, these guys are going to look at their options, but you hope in their sake, say, at least you hope for yourself. I don't want to come off like being selfish and saying a player shouldn't want the NFL, but like as a fan, you're like, well, hey, if he can't go to the NFL, I hope he comes to my team. That's what I was trying to reiterate.
Right.
Keeping that in mind, I hope these players get their NFL shot, but boy, oh boy, will we be happy as fans if you want to take a chance, we will welcome you right in.
Oh yeah.
Please do.
Yeah, I would love to see more of that. And you know what? Maybe not right now, but maybe 5 years from now, six to 10 years from now, the USFL still chugging along. They're in all their markets. They're packing the houses for reasons that we'll talk about a little bit later that are kind of astounding in a good way. But yeah, maybe, especially as the league keeps building, I think it happens more and more often, especially guys, maybe for giving some of the college experience and jumping early too, to try to get maybe earn some money. I know things are a little bit different in the college world though now, so that there's kind of a stopgap. I mean, you can make some good money in college apparently.
Right. A lot of stuff's changed in just a few years in that scene. I mean, we could do a whole show, you and I, if we can, just about college, like, NIL deals and, things like that with recruiting, like crazy out there, how that's flipped. But like, still that conversation I think persists for a lot of these folks. Because here's the thing with NIL, I'll go into NIL. Here's the thing with NIL deals. Not everyone gets them, Oh yeah. So yeah. Say you do want to capitalize on, I'm a diamond in the rough guy that didn't get that possibility, or I feel like I'm not going to get that said deal in college, and maybe I need more stock. That's what I think is looking at for the USFL in future years, that you're kind of holding out or hedging some bets on, or you're betting on yourself. You got a chip on your shoulder, which I think that's what a league like this is perfect for, is saying, I got a chip on my shoulder. I can play with these guys. Right. I can come in here and do my thing. Let me go in there, Let me be that guy. Let me show my stuff right out of the gate. That's what maybe hope for.
For sure. Either way, though, fun draft. If anything, for the speculative, and like I said, with the chat, we were kind of just having fun in there. We had a lot of S's in the chat for Stetson Bennett, and it didn't do much, I guess. We
tried so hard. They tried so hard. I was so happy to see that.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to more live streams throughout the season, just for that alone. I really love having the chat there with us, bouncing things off, even though it's hard. I'll tell you, I know people get mad because I'll tell you, I probably saw 1% of the chats that came through, because they were just like flying and then trying to pay attention, especially when we're like looking for picks coming. And I took a look every so often, but one of these days I'm going to have to actually sift through and watch one of these videos so I can read it. But either way, when it's not a draft, it's a lot easier to interact with the chat. And I can't wait for some of those post-game recaps. I had a thought, Zach. Maybe we can demonstrate how close, and maybe not, I don't know. This is a silly idea, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay.
We can demonstrate how close of a drive it is between Birmingham and Memphis, and get like a car mount and stream our drive and just, banter, listen to music, not anything organized, but, stop through a drive-through of some sort, what people do.
You do have that hotspot.
Yeah, no, 100%. We're good to go.
That's not crazy. Like that's us. That's not crazy. That's like legitimately something that could be a possibility if we can play our cards right.
Right. I mean, it'll be right after that, because we're probably going to leave right after that first game. Yeah. So we can do a little post-game recap in the car, on the road, and then you'll all see. It's not that far. I mean, it's about a 3-hour drive, but shit, oh man, why do I keep dropping the S word? But anyway, we just did a 4-hour stream the other day, so that felt like nothing.
We're professional.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Hey, okay. Chat. You know what? Anyone who's seeing this, we might have car cam now. Keep that in mind. Might be in the cards now. This is a new thing for us. We haven't talked about this until now, so I like it. Yeah, I like hearing
this. Is what I do. I come up with. I have business meetings on the show. It's no curtains, baby. Oh man.
Oh, good Lord. Any other thoughts on the draft? Like I think like any players for you that like say like me with Gunnar Oaks that you think is a guy that comes right out, maybe like after pro days he's like, what, screw it, I'll take a jump, right? Or something like that.
I mean, it's hard to say. But here's the point I'll leave it on. If there is any way to do the draft in year 2, I think this was the play, because otherwise I think just in my opinion, I think the online sentiment would have been, Well, I don't know a lot of these guys, and I haven't heard these names before, or, it's maybe guys that have been around a while. Whereas if you see the free agent signing, those get a lot of positive movements. And realistically, I think the biggest point that we're talking about here, compared to last year, there's much less spots to fill, right? To where if you had a true draft, I mean, every team only needs like a handful of guys, especially after the gauntlet of free agent signings that we've seen over the summer, to where I don't know if it would have been that interesting at all, or even they may not even have publicized it in any way. Whereas something like this, yeah, it's a good way. Keep your name in the media. Okay, I'm USFL newsroom guy, so I'm talking about it. We're talking about it on the podcast.
Yeah,
so, the USFL is trending on Twitter, so that, you accomplished that.
Yep.
But you know what? Again, 3 years from now, you could create an interesting story. Like, okay, drafted in 2023, but he's playing his first game in 2026. Tell me Sports Illustrated isn't going to write. That's not going to be a Sports Illustrated title one day, or, Barstool or something. Like one of those guys will make a point of like, this happened, and then now here we are. And you always want people talking about you. That's the way I look at it. Yes. And so one way or another, people are talking about the draft now, win. And then if some of these guys either come on now or in the future, I think there's a story to be told about it that people will pick up and talk about. So to me, win-win. Sign it up.
I think that was an under-talked about part of the draft, by the way, is like, even if you're realizing it's just for rights, it does do good exposure for the league, for like people that are like players tuning in going, oh my God, I got picked. This is freaking sweet. And social media wise, it's big draw for them. Like you're talking, that 14, it was like, when it was trending at its peak was like 14,000 tweets about the USFL at the time, which most of them were draft related.
Right.
That's for metrics standpoint and for getting interest, that's a win. So, it's, if anything, it draws interest in your league. And I think not only for that, but players then look at it again and they take it even more serious. For those who get drafted up, agents will take it more serious because they're going, okay, if my player needs an avenue, at least that's there.
Right.
So the more you do it, the more people respect it as well. So, keep on building on those events and making it a thing.
Well,
that's what you're doing.
The real cool thing to see, and I think you mentioned this when we joined USFL Today, Angelo on USFL Today the other day.
Yeah.
But I think you brought this up, but having the schools, some of the schools like Michigan State coming out like, hey, number one pick, cool. Baby, sign us up. Like, that's pretty flippin' neat, right? Like they, for all intents and purposes, they didn't have to do any of that. And just to see it, again, extra exposure. And you know what? I bet those schools kind of dig it. I bet you Michigan State's like, yeah, we'll take that. We'll take that. First overall pick. Sign us up. Hey, you know what? You need to recruit some guys. When you're out there trying to get guys to come join Michigan State, say, look, there's more than one avenue to keep playing football now, because I'll have you know, someone from our school was a number one pick in the USFL draft. I would not put it past it to have that be brought up somewhere in the conversation. Maybe not every time, 100% not every player, but there will be that guy that's on the cusp that they're saying, we need you on our team. And because of that, look, you have more options possibly.
This is only the beginning of what could, as the league grows and continues to build, that it will, hopefully this builds, like I said, builds up more and more as the year goes on anyway. This is still important. Like I said, there are a few people I thought trying to downgrade because it's just rights. Rights still matter.
Right.
That is important to the future of your league and the future of what your teams could possibly have in terms of recruits. It still matters at the end of the day. So, successful draft. I think overall people were thrilled about it. Actually, this is one of the things that got brought up, and I'm curious to pick your brain. Do you think the league eventually transitions to a somewhat televised version of their own? Because I think there were a few questions about that, and I think it's one of those things. I think with the whole crawl, walk, run philosophy that they're running with is. Do you see that in one of those phases in the coming year or years?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, if there's anybody from the Fox marketing team, yes, you should do it, and we'll host it for you. I'm not cheap, but you know what? You want a good product, sign us up. No, but seriously, right? I don't think so, and I don't think we'll see that anytime soon, and probably for a lot of the reasons we just mentioned, right? This is almost a theoretical draft, a draft of the future, not a draft of today in a lot of instances, to where, unlike the NFL where you're in a room with all the coaches, the GMs, and a lot of the big prospect players, it's going to be hard for the USFL to do that, at least probably, at minimum the first 5 years. I would even wager the first 10 years, it's going to be difficult to, I would say, etch out a mark enough to where a strict draft pool of guys to where a good majority of them are notable in a way. Because again, people using the XFL as an example in 2020, going into that season, I remember distinctly the one quarterback that everybody was like, why this was PJ Walker. And then he's the man, right? So, when you look at the spring league drafts, there's, I think half of that, right? Because there's a lot of the people that watch spring football that are like diehards like us. We know the ins and outs of like every level of football, but from an outsider's perspective, like Grandma Kyleman or my dad or whoever watching the USFL draft, I mean, let's be honest, there's a lot of players on there that they wouldn't probably know. So they really wouldn't be incentivized into watching it. It would be hard to make it a production.
God bless you, Grandma Kyleman. I swear.
Well, we stopped talking about Colin Cowherd, so we needed a new reoccurring character on the show.
Oh no, you put her with Colin Cowherd.
Did you see? Dude, I think I willed this into reality. Maybe I dreamed it. I don't know. I swear, Zach, I saw an ad for Colin Cowherd live. I swear it. I swear. I think I have to look it up now because I know we talked about that. Like that'll ever happen. I think it is now. If it is, Zach, I don't care where it is. We're flying there and we're going.
Oh my gosh.
Front row with signs.
Front row seats. Colin.
We'll hold spring stock at the Herd Live.
The spring stock Colin. Be a guest at spring stock Colin. Although I don't know how, I would be fascinated at his takes on the league.
Zach, I may have dreamt it. I don't think it's a real thing now. I swear I saw this the other day and I was like, I was talking about
Super Bowl coverage, possibly, because I know
maybe that's what it was.
Because they had a bunch of the FS1 guys do Super Bowl versions live in Arizona.
Maybe that's where I'm getting my wires crossed. But Could be. Either way, as far as the draft, I don't see it happening in the near future. Could it happen? 100%. Could it happen I could see it. I could see the league maybe doing something similar to what we did and coming to the table with like prepackaged videos of like, okay, we know if they did it on like an hour delay or a half hour delay, I have full faith in those social teams to be able to spin up because they were doing graphics. If they had little video templates where they just drop in a picture of the player, the name and this and that with the team colors, I think they could do it. And you put a little commentary around it in between each pick, kind of like what we're doing. Again, we're available, guys. Sign you up. And if you don't, we're not going to be mad at you because I know you guys have a lot of properties. Outkick. I could see somebody like Outkick doing it, honestly. Will it air on TV? I don't know. 100% on social media. I'm actually surprised Outkick didn't do something. But I'll take it because that gives us the opportunity to do it. Sign us up.
I'm fine with doing it every year anyway. I feel like it's just a blast getting that audience in with us and talking directly with people, And plus, like you hear, like one thing was great with the stream, and it's funny. I didn't actually imagine we were going to talk this much about the draft, but there's so much, I guess, that we just love rehashing or getting back into it. Was like getting to talk to some of you out there that were like, oh, dude, I watched this guy play at this school that maybe I wasn't familiar with or Stefan here wasn't familiar with, and going, oh wow, yeah, that's freaking sweet. And then you look this guy up and be like, yeah, actually, shoot, he's got a lot of accolades and is like heavily like favored in a lot of these like smaller school publications and all that. So that type of stuff is fascinating to me with doing this every time, and to me, my weakest football avenue to me is college football, but I feel like these have helped me a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually invested more into college football thanks to the USFL.
Oh, sure.
Just because I've gotten more curious about the smaller, the lower fives, the HBCUs, the FCS schools, you name it. Those avenues that don't get as much representation as in, say, the NFL drafts.
Sure.
Small
school football is fun, man. In Texas, it's wild because if it's on a field, people are going to watch it play. Like I said, we have a show on Saturday morning for high school football.
I mean, yeah, if it's high school football, you guys are going to be drawing stupid crowds for some of those.
The stadium, dude, the high school stadium here in Katy, Texas. I don't live in Katy, but it's near me. It's bigger than the Vipers Stadium, the XFL Vipers Stadium.
That's unreal.
That's crazy, right? That's insane.
Unreal.
For a high school. It's got the city where I used to live. I used to live in Cypress, Texas. They just built a stadium like that. It has a full video scoreboard. I drove by the other day. I was like, why? Again, sign them up. That's pretty cool. But wow, holy smokes.
You want to know my high school? My high school, I got in year 2 of the football program back when I was in high school. Mm-hmm. They just now this fall are going to complete their high school field. Oh, I have been out of high school for 9 years, and they are now building their first field with bleachers in it.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a thing. I knew my high school was small. We had the visiting bleachers was 2 benches, where, the home side, there was some stuff to sit in, but okay. Hey, sign them up. Better late than never, right, Zach?
Yeah. Better late than never with exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. I would say small Texas goes hard. I know that for a fact, without a freaking doubt. Another state that goes hard, and this is going to be my somewhat poor, but I'm going to make it a segue anyway, is California, and a specific gentleman that is joining the league. He went to UCLA, he went to Sacramento State. CFL fans know him quite a lot. TSL fans will remember this name. Dude's a 2-time Grey Cup champion. Dude's a 2-time CFL All-Star for the Eastern Conference. And he also has last year's passing leader in the league. Mm-hmm. You might be thinking of McLeod Bethel Thompson. Now, that's a name that, much like the ref, I am having trouble pronouncing. I keep saying McLeod. It's McLeod. It's McLeod Bethel Thompson. Yep. MBT is what I'm going to reference.
There you
MBT had jumped on social. It had been rumored for about a week and a half or so that MBT had been debating on going to America again to play in a spring league, or at least in one of those leagues as an option, or he was going to stay in the CFL, and that the Toronto Argonauts, who he's been playing with since 2017, mind you, and has won 2 Grey Cups with, mind you, was going to keep him on roster, and we're going to run with him. There's conflicting reports saying otherwise, but a lot more of the popular journalistic sites were saying he was going to have a spot.
Right.
That was the deal. They were going to respect him and bring him on. And, well, he made a decision. He's coming to the USFL. And not only just the USFL, John DeFilippo is he's building a war room of quarterbacks. I sat here and when I heard, okay, cool, he's coming to the USFL. He's going to the Breakers? What? Which already have Akil Glass, which already have Davis Cheek, and they have Zach Smith on the roster from last year. You got 4 QBs. You have, to me, I mean, I feel bad because Zach Smith has seemed to have gotten into the shadow of the others, but you have at least 3 that right now have been people's talk of the town as to who could get the starting role. The pedigree of McLeod Bethel Thompson alone is good for just PR for the league, but dude can ball. Don't doubt. Don't look at the age of 34 and disregard. Dude still has years of play. For a QB, that still is plenty. That still is good an amount of gas in the tank. And dude just came off of arguably one of his best seasons he's played in his football career.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big time signing for the USFL here. I mean, there was, I think, a lot of speculation. I think a lot of people thought he was going to go to the XFL. I know there was a lot of talk about that in the preseason or the lead up to that season. So seeing this signing for the Breakers, I mean, like you mentioned, They're stacking up QBs there because, I mean, Akil Glass, I know a lot of people online, you're already seeing like, well, hold on, don't count them out. I don't think anybody is, but we're starting to see some of these guys because now this is the second show in a row where we're seeing a QB added into a situation where there was already a QB battle going on, because last week it was Ryan Willis. This week it's McLeod Bethel Thompson. And hopefully next week, I mean, I'm feeling a little bit left out here as a Gamblers fan, guys. Sign me up on something, because I'll tell you, I would have been ecstatic. I would have jumped in the air and clicked my heels, cartoon style, at seeing this. But you know what? Sign them up to all the Breakers fan. I love to see it. Hate to see it in the same division as my team, but I love seeing this go down in the USFL because I'll tell you this: if the if the CFL wasn't already on alert, they are now. Right? They're looking at this like, okay, all right, we do need to adjust our game plan. Because let's be honest, we talked about it in the past. Yes, there's spots in the CFL. The CFL's been around a long time. It has the history. It's sustainable. They have some problems, but I mean, they've been around year after year after year.
They're the stalwart in the football community. They're the number 2 option that has been around for roughly, at least its origins go back even longer than the NFL.
Right.
Keep that in mind. Back in the 1890s, the Argos and the Hamilton Tiger Cats, they fight over the oldest franchise in terms of origin. But like even then, the officialness of the league has been pushing 60 plus years. So they have had that longevity. It's been ups and downs, but it's still a recognizable place to play. Doug Flutie made a name for himself there. Warren Moon, Hall of Fame QB for the Oilers, made a name for himself there in the 80s. Like it has that recognition. So the challenges for this is that it's been getting through these. Now, fascinating, you're seeing more options available on the table. And this isn't just us talking. Like Chris Jones, who is actually the general manager and head coach for the Edmonton Elks, he had a sit-down conversation with Dave Naylor at TSN about this. And that was the thing. I think you're seeing, because extra competition in the space, everyone's adjusting for competition for players. That's not a knock on the league, on the CFL or anything. That's just the situation we're all in, is that there's now 3 options in the marketplace below the NFL that are all trying to occupy basically the same sector of the sport. Yes, the CFL has a Canadian audience mostly, but they're trying to get an American broadcast deal. So there's 3 players in the American broadcast scene that are trying to get inroads. And be that guy. Now, or at least build upon being that guy within the CFL's case.
Sure. And the one thing that I think that works against them, because I mean, for all intents and purposes, the CFL, like you said, they have the historic thing going. They're there year after year. The USFL's going into season 2, but compare that to the CFL, who, like you said, has been around 60 plus years. Not everything is roses up there, but for the most part, they're there, right? They pull in a good enough crowd. They got TV deals abroad and there, right? The thing that they can't compete with, though, is you have to now move or live in Canada. You have to pay different taxes. You have to travel, maybe move away from your family, conversion rates. When it comes down to it, there's probably a lot of guys on CFL rosters that are maybe not saying it out loud, but in the back of their head thinking, well, boy, okay, if this sticks around another, let's say the season 3 or season 4, I might have to put some thought into maybe jumping back down to my home state, right? Or wherever it might be, or in the States in general, right? Just to, I don't know, even some of those things out, because I don't know what the CFL pays. I'm sure on paper, it probably is maybe a little bit of higher wage, but probably similar, but after taxes and things like that, I would bet you that you could probably earn a little bit more work in the USFL just from the taxes alone.
The exchange rate is what's brought up a lot. It's been being brought up a little bit more. I think in recent conversations about like options, because for an American player, and again, keep in mind, the CFL has a massive university level they can draw from for Canadian talent, and they pride themselves on being Canadian talented first. U Sports is the name of the game up there, but for American talents that want to go across the border, you have to get your passport in order, which is its own right. Just talk to Martavius Bryant. You also have to get the exchange rate in order when you do, conversion. The CFL, the Canadian dollar is not as valuable as the American dollar, so keep that in mind. Taxes, of course, and things like that. And again, you're away from your family if your family doesn't move with you. So for example, why is McLeod Bethel Thompson choosing the USFL? Well, it's not just the opportunity to play in the league. There's a lot of factors for players. Every player has a different factor. Keep that in mind when we talk about stuff like this, because it's important. It's not just player chooses X because of Y. There's a lot of stuff that goes in. So like McLeod Bethel Thompson, why is he coming to America? Well, first, wants to be closer to his family. His wife actually is a writer for Marvel shows. So, he wants to be back in the States for that example. Right. Second, he's looking for, I think, another avenue to try and get back in the NFL. That's not saying that the CFL is not that option, but I think he is trying to attempt to see if there is different paths that maybe perhaps him and his agent talked over this and said, okay, maybe we should try the USFL now. You've had connections with the past and its origins with the TSL in previous years. Maybe you go and take a shot here again in America and you skew that. So like those two factors alone, that couples into something saying, all right, I'll take that shot. Because again, it's been reported heavily. He could have gone back to Toronto. Oh yeah. I think Toronto would have welcomed him back. Yes, they have Chad Kelly. I've heard so much about Chad Kelly, and I'll be frank, I wish Chad Kelly was at the Gamblers to make that a storyline.
Me too.
About the nephew of Jim Kelly playing for his former team. But that being said, MBT is a heavily accoladed quarterback that still has gas in the tank. You can't tell me that he would have somehow not had that opportunity to go back and start right away again. Right. I'm just saying. So fascinating story. It's a win for the USFL to have him raise that talent floor. I feel like I've taken so much of your time with that.
No, you're good.
Here's my post question, because I think this is a great one for you. If the QB battle goes a specific way, there's 3 QBs that on that roster. I think that there's 4 total. I'm not counting out Zach Smith fully. I just think that there's 3 the 3 that got signed on are the favorites in my eyes, especially with DeFilippo being there and not Fedora. Do you see one of them getting traded before the training camp cut down happens? Because there are some teams that either don't have 3 QBs, or as it's been said, and you probably have heard this a ton at this point, the Gamblers, some people think, could use more QB talent.
They seem to think that, and they're probably right. Who am I to judge anybody's opinion there? I'll say this. I'll put it this way. Would I be happy if Akil Glass landed on the Gamblers? Hell yeah, I'd be all in. Would I be happy, though, if a paperclip landed on the Gamblers? Sign me up, because we're going 12-0, baby.
Hey now.
But no, for real though, like legit. I think we will see a move like that. Maybe not a lot, but at least one during training camp. I can't remember when we were talking about it last, but I know we were having a conversation about just creating that parity across teams. I think we saw even a little bit of it last year, because these coaches are competing and they're being competitive and they're playing against these teams, but they also do want these games to be competitive, because they're trying to build up these players. And if you just hand every player a softball game, I mean, there's not much that you're going to learn out of that. You're going to get to the playoffs fighting, half of your games, maybe against softer teams. Now, I think we'll see some of those trades in there. Now, where do they land up? I don't know. I'd say Houston is probably a good candidate. Everybody else seems to be covered pretty good. I'm still a little bummed out, though, because Ryan Willis, I feel like would have been a perfect pick for the Gamblers. Case Cookus, I know he played in the Stars last year, but I would have thought he would have wanted to go 12-0 and all in and come over to the Gamblers. But I get it; he's probably contractually obligated. But yeah, Akil Glass, or maybe we have some more surprises, because we're a little bit less than a month until training camp. And over the span of these last 2 episodes, I'd say we have some pretty big signings that happened pre and post draft with Ryan Willis and now Bethel Thompson, which sign them up. I love to see this stuff.
Yeah, good, really exciting time for the league for some of these recent signings or re-signings. Like I said, Ryan Willis, Cookus coming back. Having McLeod Bethel Thompson coming to a roster as well. There's a lot of possibilities. And training camp, some of these teams still can fill in roster spots. There's actually 1 or 2 now that are over a few that need to cut down, but nonetheless, there are a few that could fill in a few more spots before we hit that mid-March training camp. So stuff can still happen. There's still potential possibilities for roster pieces to fill in. So we'll keep an eye. But this is a sign of, it's a good sign for, I think, next year for at least the QB floor has been raised alone, I think, with just his addition being in there. Well,
and I think, and I'll leave it on this last point. I think that is important, right? Because, I think there's a lot of conversation of, the spring football wars, XFL, right. USFL. I mean, at the end of the day, there is so many players that are good and will want to play in the USFL or the XFL, enough so that you're going to have good competitive games.
Oh, yeah.
Other than maybe quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, there's not to say that there isn't, but they're harder to find. There's definitely, when it comes to arm strength and accuracy. So these types of signings are super important for the USFL. The USFL getting McLeod Bethel Thompson over the XFL, to me, is a major get. Now, again, he's still got to go through training camp. He may not be the starter, or maybe he is the one that moves on. I threw it out there with Ryan Willis. Maybe Coach Haley is getting some trade bait going on because now he's effectively stopped all of the other teams from getting one of the hotter free agents that just became available within that day, right? Now we're seeing it with Bethel Thompson. Maybe we'll see a couple others in the mix, but I will always be happy at a good caliber quarterback being signed and brought into the USFL. And so I want to see as many of them as we can. Go on.
Yeah. The Breakers QB battle is now elevated to, I think, the same height at minimum as the Maulers one in terms of just, I don't know exactly who's going to walk out of it now.
Right.
I had it's a little easier to predict, I think, with 2. But now you have 3 that, that have basically been highly praised for different reasons, either highly, have accolades for their college careers, or in accordance with Bethel Thompson's case, a very much accoladed professional career that he's coming into.
For sure. Well, I'm excited to see it. It's definitely, the closer we get to flipping training camp, it seems that crazier things get. Next week, who knows? Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it's that Stetson Bennett free agent signing that we never saw coming. Who knows? We'll have to see. Tune in next week. Same time, same place.
We're going to manifest this, people. We're going to keep
5 years from now, I'm going to be like, I told you so, Zach. I told you it was going to happen.
I knew he was coming to the league. I never wavered. I always had the shrine in my recording studio.
I'll just be so mad when it's to the Panthers and not the Gamblers somehow. Oh. But you know why it'll be, Zach? Because you guys will still be getting the number 1 pick. And you know why that'll be.
I see. We've played that card again. Very, very nice of you. You know what? There's been a lot of beef thrown between you and I, but John DeFilippo threw some beef, by the way. Let's keep the Breakers train rolling. So not only is this man stacking up QB talent, along with Ryan Jones, the general manager for the Breakers, but Fox, as you've seen, they like to cross-promote the USFL in some of their events. Mm-hmm. NASCAR has been one of them. They have used NASCAR to its fullest effect to bring in cross-promotion, and the Daytona 500 is no exception. Pre-game racing coverage, by the way, and the ref caught this before I did and kind of shared it around our Discord for Pro Football Newsroom, by the way. Check the link in the description for that. Fun times in there. And, well, John DeFilippo had a few choice words for Skip Holtz. Both of them were at the pre-race. Michael Waltrip, who does a lot of the on track kind of discussions with drivers and crew chiefs, he came on over to him And basically, John said straight up, we're going to beat him twice this year. Like, Skip's right next to this man. He goes, yep, I can't wait to beat him twice. His words.
I love it. Well, because, it's funny, right? Because I was like, the Daytona 500's about to start. Let me flip it on. Maybe they'll drop a USFL ad, maybe a new one if we're lucky. And as I turn it on, they're in pit row, and he said, let's go talk to some USFL coaches. I was like, the timing is so perfect. Sign me up on this. And of course, like you mentioned, Skip Holtz, DeFilippo there. He even said, DeFilippo, am I saying it right? You say it, DeFilippo. And you know what? Loose lip flip stands for two things now. It ain't all about dropping the news early. He's going to give you some sass, man. He's like, oh, question me about my name. Hey, by the way, we're taking this guy out twice. Audi, sign him up. Loose lip flipping the script, and I am so happy to see it. And again, it's funny because I had a friend of mine coming over. We were talking about the XFL, the USFL, and kind of the differences in between them. And it wasn't anything I was going to talk about, but then when we saw that, I said, well, here's one thing. That's something the XFL could never do. Fox, on the other hand, can insert the USFL into every major sporting event that they're broadcasting. And case in point, the Great American Race, baby. Now,
right.
I might have a bone to pick about the end of that race because I don't know about the whole overtime and where it was when the yellow flag come up. No, I think you need to be crossing a finish line on that. That's not Fox's fault or problem. But the Great American Race, Daytona 500, one of the most watched races of the year. USFL getting not only just promos, because I think we all expected that, but getting coaches on the ground, getting them in your face. It gives it just a little bit extra of a professional feel that, man, it feels good to see that. Just on chance, too, flipping it on the TV. Mm-hmm. And I know about the USFL. Think about everybody else watching that. They got the promos in the Super Bowl. They got the promos during the NFL season. That's great. Those guys watch football. To me, this is almost just as important as those Super Bowl ads because you're, at minimum, giving exposure to a new audience. Yes, there's crossover. There's a lot of guys that watch NASCAR that watch football. But I guarantee you there's some that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys now, maybe for whatever reason, their team, maybe they were a fan of the NFL, but their team left market and they said, okay, I'm done with it. But then they see the USFL around and say, well, I have been missing football. I'm still mad at the NFL, those guys for taking my team. But you know what? The Birmingham Stallions, I remember them from when I was a kid, or the Houston Gamblers, because they're going 12-0 all in, undefeated.
God.
And actually, I take it back. 36-0 undefeated 3-year streak.
Man, you keep living in a fantasy land. It's just the stakes keep getting raised.
I mean, that's all we can do as Gamblers fan. Raise the stakes until it works, or we're homeless. But anyway,
all in on that one score loss once again.
Oh my goodness! If it happens again, I don't know. I might have to live up to my character and flip teams. I don't know which team it would be. We'll have to have a raffle, maybe. I don't know.
Equivalent of like you pulling those are the equivalent of you getting two pairs, and then the dude across from you pulls a full house, and you just you throw the cards up in the air.
The thing, Zach, too, and I feel bad for the Gamblers, actually. I think it's my fault. I think, my Lions fan has now rubbed off onto the Gamblers, and the football gods know, well, wait a minute, Stefan cannot be pleasantly surprised by the football team he chose. He must be destroyed in the most humiliating way. Every game. I remember there was some, I just turned to my wife. My wife is like, oh, look, I think we're going to win this one. And I remember it so vividly. She looked at me, I think we're going to win this one. I said, no, we're not. We're going to lose it on the last play of the game. And she was watching it. She's like, you're going to be right, aren't you? I said, I don't even have to watch the game to know. And she's like, yep, they got it. They got the touchdown. I was like, of course they did. Of course they did, because I'm rooting for them. But this all changes this year. 12-0 and 17-0 regular season record for the Lions. Can't speak on the playoffs yet. They got to earn that one. I'm not giving them a freebie. They got to earn that one from me. Anyway, now we're getting crazy.
Good God.
What were we talking about? Daytona 500. That's
Daytona
right.
500. Final synopsis, Daytona 500 started at 8.18 million viewers on average with a peak of 10 million. Basically, that means if you're watching, you probably at least a good few million saw promos across the board. So, league gets some promotion there as well. And they're going to be needing it because they're going to need to be promoting tickets. Hey, guess what came out?
Ooh.
The day that we've been recording this, earlier today. Tickets are being priced out. There are season ticket and single game ticket prices finally available. The whole spiel is these are available. You can deposit $25 towards any of these, towards the season ticket options, and the entire slate of options becomes available in early March. Not a specific date yet, but tickets will be available for single and the like in early March to fully purchase. Right now they're doing deposits up though to kind of get you locked in. But honestly, the deposits, depending on what tier you buy, it basically gets you most of what you're wanting. Oh, yeah. In one case, the deposit, if you're buying for one of the hubs, gets you a season ticket package right out of the gate.
I had to rub my eyes and double take a few times looking at these things as I got this release earlier this morning when the release came out, the day before this episode comes live. And yeah, I mean, Ford Field, Zach, they're trying to get at least 10,000 people in there. One of the things that I was saying in the lead up, hey, if you want to do that, you got to make this affordable. And you already said it, $25 gets you a season ticket in the end zone. And I know people that those are like their favorite spots because one, that's like the camera spot. Every time there's a touchdown, you're right there. And I mean, if the game ends in the end zone, that's like the coolest spot to have. Right. I had season tickets for the Arizona Cardinals right on the goal line. Now,
oh really?
It's sweet if the game ends there. Not so sweet if it ends at the other goal line. So there's the give and take there. But $25, again, 9 games, 5 of those are Panthers games.
Yeah.
Club tickets, though. This, again, club season tickets for the Panthers, and it varies across the league, but I think, the highest is $120, the lowest is $90 in Birmingham, but in Detroit, $100.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The highest season ticket package you will pay for pretty much 11 games at max. You can go to Canton and get premium, like midfield seating. So like the primo stuff, best view in the house for 11 games, you can get for $120.
Yeah, that's insane.
That equates to just over $10 a ticket for yourself.
And again, if you go to NFL games, you will know it's pretty hard sometimes to even get into a seat for one game for $100. And I'll tell you this, it ain't going to be anywhere near as close as you are in the USFL, but you're going to get 9 to 11 games, half of which will be the home team games. Holy smokes, boy. I mean, when they weren't joking, the most affordable deal in sports. No kidding. Like, you are giving everybody a reason to come to these games. I mean, you have a family of 4. This is crazy. Again, you can get in there for $100 end zone season tickets. $100 gets you 4 people for the season. And, I think this helps. You had brought it up in the past. What was the one criticism that they're really trying to solve for this year? Get people into the stadiums.
Yes, indeed.
And this is how you do it. Now, you brought up something earlier, I think on the pre-show when we were talking. I think I even missed this in the release, but I believe I heard you say that if you have an extra ticket and you're traveling to another hub, that you can use that ticket. Am I crazy? Did I hear you say that?
Yes, that is what you can do with it.
That's insane.
There's a plethora of perks you can use for this. So one of them is ability to purchase tickets at other USFL stadiums and their season ticket holder price point. So there's that. But again, one of the abilities is ability to take tickets from a game that will be missed and have double the seats to another game. You can transfer that to a different game. Other perks include the fact that you are getting access to dedicated season to all regular season games. You can purchase additional tickets for family and friends at their season ticket holder price. You can purchase tickets at USFL stadiums, of course, like I said, for season ticket holder price. Access to dedicated account executives and payment plan options to fit any budget. NFT team tokens, so those are returning again. You should be seeing those, I imagine, for specific games like the POAP badges and all the like there too. Digital ticket transfer, premium ticket access to stadium clubs when available. So, like Birmingham has a very nice press box that's up there, that you can possibly get access to as well. Ford Field. Think about that. If you're in Detroit and you buy club seats, I imagine you're going to get access to some of those nicer suites up there as well. And then, ability to post, and you can even post your tickets to the secondary market to, pay people to buy your own. So, that's season ticket holder perks. And there's going to be other stuff too. They've been hinting that they want to, really they really want to get into the season ticket holder atmosphere and get diehard fan support built. Yeah. This is the big first step, was getting this out there. And I'm just going to reveal this right now. We're going to get a little more in depth with this in the coming days, as we will have an exclusive interview with the head of ticket sales and services for the USFL, Brett Zalaski, who's been basically a huge hype man ever since he got hired on. Dude has been sharing his stories of traveling to every hub. He's been really just thrilled with what the league's doing, and I am excited to talk with him. Just his email chain alone, him and I have had, he's just all hype and pumped about getting to chat. So that interview is going to come out in the coming days. If you're watching now, we'll be out by the time you catch this. And that should get a few more details and kind of thought process of how this is all going to go down. But nonetheless, the league said, how do we make this easy for fans to come in? And they found a way to make it pretty dang close to what it was last year. Not too much more. Honestly, they basically said, look, you're going to reward yourself for season tickets. You're getting the bare bones cheapest price like last year's Birmingham games. If you buy season tickets, 100%, you should look at season tickets. That's what they're trying to push you towards, really. But even then, if you want to, out of curiosity, want to go to one game, those prices are stupid cheap for a professional team anyway. Oh, sure. Seriously, $10 still to go sit in an end zone. Yeah, that's cool. $10. Credit sure is going to be fees and Ticketmaster, but still $10 base. Oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm buying that. Yeah, well, sideline tickets for $25. Yeah, I'm buying for $25. Oh,
straight up. And we talked about this too. Using Detroit as an example. How do you kind of lure some of those people in that are across the street at the baseball game? The baseball game ended. There's maybe a football game going to start, or maybe you're a couple quarters in. I think this is how you do it, man. I think this is how you do it. You already take the hard part of getting downtown's already done. They're down there. Now they literally need to walk across the street, slap $10 on the counter, and they're going to go be in a nice air-conditioned dome to watch some more football, right? And now, Michigan is Michigan. Never count it out. That's what I always say. Michigan will give you, it'll be deep dead of winter one day, and the hottest summer day the next. And sometimes it's the dead of winter in the morning and the depths of hell of summer at night. So, never count it out. So, you go to the Tigers game, all of a sudden it's sweltering out. Hey, let's go check out this USFL thing. I heard the Michigan Panthers are undefeated. Hey, $10? Oh, $10. I got $10. Who doesn't have $10?
You know what part of the importance of the low prices are for this is that the ease of access for a new fan to check out this league without having to worry about, well, do I feel like it's going to be worth my, say, $80 to sit at a reasonable seat to watch a football league that I don't, maybe I'm curious, but I'm not as invested in, say, the NFL. Having that base price where it's that easy to go, okay, my investment is minimal. And if I get surprised, I made back my investment in my enjoyment of my time right away. Right. That to me is a massive value for having these baseline ticket prices, and they can do this because, again, one of the perks of having a league owned by a television company is that you get the money from the ads that you sell for your product.
Oh, yeah.
So you can kind of move and shift things around because you're a TV company selling ad space and is trying to make money through mostly that ad space. So the tickets, they help with the aesthetic, and it's a little extra cheddar on the side if you do make some more. So I mean, it's good for fans. Win, they win. And that's not a joke. It is the best value, hands down, in professional sports for tickets. You will not find any pro league in the U.S., in the world, that I am aware of, that will get you that much value for the amount of sporting content you will be able to enjoy during a season.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I always thought MLS was probably one of the best deal in sports. And again, I'm probably dating myself. I'm talking about 10 years ago in Salt Lake.
So yeah, that's
right.
We're talking before everything exploded with MLS.
Yeah, so
recently
I was out there for business, and if you there's not much to do in Salt Lake. There's hiking, and there's MLS, right? And then there's AAA baseball out there, but I'm not sure if they were playing at the time. I can't remember. But MLS, it was a walking distance from my hotel, so I was like, you know what? Let me check out a game. Same thing. It was like $20 or $30. I said, this is great. And some games were a little bit cheaper. Some were a little bit more, depending on like what the matchup was. I think the CONCACAF Cup was there, so I went and checked that out. But nowhere near $10, nowhere near $25 for a season ticket, nowhere near any of that. So, I mean, if you could beat what I thought previously was the best deal in sports, other than when the Diamondbacks, the Arizona Diamondbacks, there was a point when they were like really horrible that I bought a ticket for 75 cents off of StubHub. But that is aftermarket and a consequence of the team. When it comes to true ticket sales, yeah, I don't think anybody is going to beat this. I don't think anybody will beat this. And this is probably just unheard of. It probably won't last forever. Again, 5 years from now, once the market's grown a little bit, they could probably charge a little bit more. But for right now, if you're on the fence about heading out to Birmingham or Memphis or wherever, opening weekend, April 15th, or maybe it's Canton the week after, April 30th in Detroit. I mean, if you're just not sure, $10 is worth the gamble to me.
No joke. As soon as this came out and I sent this to my family's group chat, which has Grandma Kyleman.
Oh, there we go. Sign him up.
We're just going to make this a normal part of the show. It's fine. My aunt chimes in and she goes, "That's great prices, especially for 5 that I need." My aunt, uncle, and their 3 kids. So yeah. The Kyleman clan's instantly already jumping in. The Detroit Hub's going to have at least those members representing it's for as many games as possible.
Which is awesome, man. And like I said, when I go out there for the Motor City meetup, I got friends of mine that I don't care what they say they're doing. They're going to see some USFL football that day. And hopefully, of the group, I can get like 2 of them hooked. To me, I'll feel happy. Just, here, come. I'll buy the ticket. And now I know I'm not going to be empty in the wallet if I have to go buy 5 tickets too. Because this is like worst case scenario. I'm looking at like a hundo. Right? That ain't bad at all.
No, not at all. Good times, man. Great way to end the week. And I think we already seen, a few people that are like, again, I think they are dumbfounded from the fact that it's not a per game price. You sure? And like, no, this is real. Just put down your 25, and maybe if you're in Detroit, you can instantly buy one. And then when the full thing comes up, you can put the rest down, or just buy the end zone. The deposit, you'll already be like, if you want end zone seats, you literally have the end zone seat. You can just go, yeah, I just want this.
Right.
Just give me the end zone seat.
Right.
I have season tickets instantly. No big deal.
Well, and here's the thing too. That's the other thing. If you're on the fence, if you put that $25 security deposit down, you can you're guaranteed to get at least the end zone seat. But if you get it in now, it holds your line. So when it comes to selecting seats, so if you're on the fence where you want to sit, but you're probably going to go, and at worst you're going to use the end zone, there still is a benefit to getting in, because if you change your mind and now you want to go sit at the 50-yard line, you have that spot reserved in line to where you can go jump in and say, oh, you know what? Maybe now I got ahead of a couple hundred people or thousands or who knows how many, maybe thousands. I don't know. But hey, $25 though. I mean,
$25.
I wish get the USFL to Houston. Come on here, guys. I'll tell you, I will, for these ticket prices, I will do almost whatever it takes to fill that stadium. Almost. I'm not like, Hall & Oates. I can go for that. Unlike, sign them up.
Can do this time, though.
Exactly. I'm better than Hall & Oates. Hall Oates and the ref. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the time as always. Thank you for tuning in again to that draft coverage, and thank you again for just supporting the show. It's been a wild ride, so cannot appreciate it enough for it. If you are following us again, social media at USFL Podcast, guys, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and that TikTok. We have a video down. We're going to have more along the way for you as well. By the way, if you're watching the video, hit that subscribe button and click the bell. It builds morale, not only for you, but for us too. And it also helps you for that possible 5K giveaway for a customized USFL jersey. Also be sure to get in on the action on Breaking Tea, 10% off your order there with USFL Newsroom. And don't forget, guys, spring stock, April 15th at Casey's Sports Bar in Uptown in Birmingham, Alabama, where all the action is going to be taking place between us discussing with ourselves, with you, the fans, with some amazing guests, having a watch party, watching the game live, and the next day going to Memphis to have some fun and get some beef taken care of that we have to see take place between two new coaches, by the way.
Oh, that's going to make it more fun. I'm telling you, the edible arrangement that I'm going to buy Curtis Johnson before, during, you heard me right, before, during, and after that game. Because I'll tell you, halftime, when we have a nice 24-point lead, I'm going to reach over that midfield and say, Coach, come here. And I'm just going to slide him a little stick with some cantaloupe and some chocolate-covered strawberries. I'm going to say, look, there's more of that where it came from as long as we pull this win out, buddy. And I'll tell him, I'm keeping an eye on that fourth quarter, especially the last minute, because I will eat that edible arrangement. I hope he knows that.
To be honest, though, up until post week 1 last year, we didn't know that both these teams would be like these collapse in the fourth quarter type of squads. So now this year we're like, okay, who's going to do it? Like someone's got to take the L. It can't be, it can't be that we tie. We could tie. No, we can't. It's impossible to tie in the USFL. Mm-hmm. I did not forget that. I totally did not.
I will say, no, I bet you, I don't want to be that guy, but if we get to overtime and you get through 30 rounds of nobody scoring, I think we're seeing a tie. I think
Mike
they're going to
comes over the intercom and says, "Guys, we're calling this."
It's like the MLB All-Star game when it got to like, I don't even remember. It was over 19 innings at one point, and I think maybe that's when they called it. Maybe it was 21 innings, something like that. Then they were like, this is an all-star game. So we're just going to say it's a tie. There's no reason that everybody should still be playing this game 3 games in, so that I don't see that happening. But if it got to that point, we could see a tie. We could see a tie. Fox has other things to air,
We could see a tie. Oh, my God. No, we'll never get to that. It'll be decided before that.
100%.
It would.
Especially when Ryan Willis makes it and gets over to the Gamblers like he wanted. He didn't say that, so hopefully nobody. That's me lying.
There's the angle. He's playing this angle. He's got to get that QB so that he can make sure that Josh Love or Eric Berrier don't shred the Gamblers.
I can't take it. Sunday. I don't need it.
Everybody, we'll catch you for episode 49. Wow, we're almost episode 50. Actually, that's kind of thinking about that in the back of my head. But we'll catch you for the next one. Most likely next week at this rate. It keeps on. The news keeps on ticking, and we keep on discussing it in your guys' shows. So catch you for the next one, guys. Thanks as always. Stay tuned and stay classy, people. We'll see you around.